All right, so I have a confession to make, and I'm going to share some stuff with you today. How I stay, raw on the road, healthy anywhere, every time, all the time. This is the summer road trip 2025. It's documented on the Elite Video Club if you're interested. Today, though, I wanted to make a confession. I hadn't read the comments in weeks. I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks. I don't know when I stopped and made my last video. I've been on a social media fast, and oh my God, is it a blessing to the mind. I do got to go back to work. I do work for Puradime. Some people are not happy that that's where I ended up, with Puradime, as my number one and really only sponsor. Most video shows have sponsors. If you have enough, followers, subscribers, you can make a decent living from the Google AdSense. But since they took my channel, I don't have that anymore. So, because I used to make, $2,500, $3,500. When it was more natural algorithms of what the people would naturally be drawn to, which was more organic type content. And I just lost another video. It was the 40-day video. I'm not going to say the word because now they consider the deep tissue water only detoxification as a eating disorder. So basically everything I teach is an eating disorder, but eating yourself to diabetes, obesity, and 10,000 other chronic conditions is considered normal. But I think that, the big tech social media, is intertwined and bought out by the same agenda that does want to make everyone unwell and doesn't allow the promotion of natural healing. And that's been going on for a long time, and specifically due to Rockefeller medicine taking over the American Medical Association in 1902, and it's been a nightmare ever since. But it doesn't mean you can't escape the matrix. You can escape the matrix. I went to a family reunion. I didn't need any of it. So that's one of the things I want to share today before I talk a little bit more about Puradime being my sponsor and the reason why basically every video has to be a video about Puradime, because that's the only thing that big tech will allow me to do. They take down all my other videos. They shadow ban me for going against community guidelines if I tell the truth in certain regards, because they call that eating disorders, but it's really not. The sickness and the obesity and the diabetes and the depression and the anxiety, but you can escape the matrix. You can outsmart it. And it was the wisest one spoke and said, be in the world but not of it. You see what I'm saying? It's like, be a lover of life, not a lover of the world. Did you understand? I'm not trying to be too religious and spiritual, but basically, if you really wanted to know the real me, which nobody does, I don't know if I hate to say it or if I'm glad to say it, but no one on this earth knows me. I just shut up a long time ago, and I just stick to the script. I be what the world wants from me, because it doesn't, I can't, you can't get this unless it comes to your heart from God, which comes from your heart from yourself, which comes from the shocks and blows of fate to your life, the indescribable, excuse my language, shit that happens. And some people's lives are just kind of tough from day one. in utero, you got your own karmic situation, and it ain't pretty, but it's divinely orchestrated to drive you straight back into the arms of Jehovah, if you know what I'm saying. Brahman, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it. God, that's the word I call it. People get pissed off about the dude in the sky. The clouds are tripping. I've never seen anything like this. Row after row after row, and they're not even really chemtrail looking. Oh, I mean, not that those are real, because they're not, unless your lungs are all screwed up and you're absorbing nanoparticulate and sticking your face into a phone all day, and then see those waves and affect the particles that get trapped in the tissues that are theoretically but not being sprayed upon us. Weather modification since the 1940s, admitted over and over again by the governments. But that's a conspiracy theory. Everything is a conspiracy theory, but it ends up being true. So I live outside the matrix, ladies and gentlemen. My daughter and her boyfriend got food poisoning. And so I made a juice recipe and I blasted them with enzymes. Within like 10, 15 minutes, they were both feeling better. After being diarrhea, pukey, sick all night, I hit them with the juice, apple, celery, lemon, ginger juice, of course, and I blasted them with a handful of the Zymers, and then within about 10, 15 minutes, they both started feeling better. So what I do is I stay raw on the road, you know what I'm saying? And the enzyme's not only good for everything, basically, because when you're young, you have a lot of enzymes. That's why you can, hurt yourself and just get back up and keep going, or your injuries heal a lot more rapidly. But as you get older, your body starts to kind of try to conserve enzymes for its own purposes. So let me have my breakfast here. I need a drink. It's like 1 o'clock and I've been on the road all day long. I've never lost a race yet. There was one guy, he was totally erratic and insane. I've never done that. Every race I've won, I don't know if I consider that a loss, but he was more erratic, more, I never do anything that is irresponsible or irrational. I'm always calm. It's just that I can see way ahead. I'm very smart driver. I'm very strategic, and I do have a lot of testicular fortitude, if you will. So it's ballsy, strategic winning. I only have a 4-cylinder, so I have the weakest car out here on the road, unless you have like a Geo Metro 3-cylinder. I have a 4-cylinder 2008 Nissan Sentra Tintin, and I love this car. It's amazingly reliable. Nissan is growing on me, just like I'm hooked on Toyota. But I've been winning every race this entire road trip, from the south end all the way to the north end, and now I'm headed back. So I gotta blast my breakfast. And organic orange juice and enzymes is like medicine. So the enzymes are good for everything, and I got in at the very beginning. So I helped start Puradime. They asked me if I wanted to come over. I had a great career with another company, and when Lou and Phil and Dave asked me to come over, I said, hell yeah, man, of course I'm gonna go where Lou goes, you know? And so the enzymes and probiotics haven't taken off as much as I think they will in the future once people start getting wind of it. It is a $60 billion worldwide industry, and we're working on getting a vast portion of that to Puradime. We've built up the facility. It's the best facility according to the FDA anyways. It's the most modern, up-to-date, cleanest, purest testing and processing facility for this type of, herbal medicine. And I'm going to have to make a bunch of videos when I get home because my whole family is sick and overweight. We all have chronic conditions. Not necessarily my kids or anything. They're pretty good. They actually, my family does pretty well. But I went to my big family reunion, the yearly one, and just, there was so many of my relatives, and it was weird. They're like, oh, I follow you on Facebook. So they see me, And I was talking to to a lot of my relatives, and they were just like, yeah, I have this, I have this, I have that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of videos and send them out to you, utilizing the Puradime, because it all starts in the gut. And that's where everyone's gone wrong with the processed foods and the mixtures, and we're way off track. And so the other admission that I wanted to make was that, I'm not really here for the raw vegans. They have it all together. They don't need me. Now, I don't know any raw vegans except for the ones online. In real life, I never run into any of them. I never run into any live foodists, mono-meal, fruitarian, liquidarian, breatharians. And I could walk you through the whole thing if you want. We can go all the way down to the lowest common denominator of schizophrenia, ADD, bipolar, congested, depression, obesity, lethargy, inability to get off the couch, processed food, standard American diet. And we can go all the way up the scale, all the way to breatharianism, And it's good to work your way back from the top, from living on light, pranic living, divine living. Now the world is I don't want to curse too much, but the world is a mess. I mean, the matrix is a mess. The people, they don't know. They don't know about oxygen. They don't know about calcium. They don't know about the mucus. They don't know about the enzyme inhibitors in all the foods. It was why everyone is obese. And then you got to drink and take other drugs and painkillers and weed and stuff to help you to get through your day, to push through the pain, which is the inflammation in the body. So the enzymes are the number one anti-inflammatory, which will bring it down after. So it works for athletes, and it works for people with chronic conditions, because the enzymes do everything. And there's, they say, well, there's 83,000. I'm like, bro, it's more than that. The mechanisms of the human organism are infinite. But the one thing you can be rest assured of is that they're all enzyme activities. And everyone becomes enzyme depleted, especially after like 28, 29, 30 years old. And then by the 35, you're fully developed in the brain and stuff. And it depends on how you lived. It depends on if you saw the pediatrician when you were younger. Can't talk about that, but that destroys the enzyme pathways and the proper endocrine system and leaves inflammatory, inflammatory chemicals in the brain, which leads to, the constant production of the cytokines, which are basically a protein which creates fibrin. And so the same thing with the cooked food, the same thing with the chemicals, the same thing with the enzyme inhibitors of the processed food on the shelves. So the whole world is basically the whole system, the matrix is they're antibiotic and they're anti-enzyme. So it's enzyme inhibitors on the processed foods that allows them to sit on the shelf for forever and never go bad, but then that sticks to your body and inhibits the ability of your cells to function properly. And you build up all this mucus and you build up all these enzyme inhibitors, then the enzyme system shut down, and then you get overweight because it all sticks to you, you know? So I'm going to continue to press ahead. I got to get back to work. I had a great vacation. I love digital detox. Holy crap. You're just way happier when you're not on the phone. I watch YouTube videos of spiritual people. That's it. I gave up on politics. I gave up on the matrix. I gave up on influencers. I don't want anyone's information, their drama, their judgment, their criticism. I don't want their intel. I don't want anyone's guidance. I don't want anyone's judgment. I only want to listen to my own inner divine guidance system, the internet. And so when you get off the internet and you start listening to the internet and you start trusting your own intuition, you can develop a relationship with a divine guidance system that will guide you to what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? Until then, I'm going to try to help people to get their gut right, lose weight, release the inflammation, increase oxygen, increase the sunlight, increase the sleep if necessary. The less you eat and the less you think, the less you need to sleep. But the more you think and the more you eat, the more you need to sleep. If you're in a state of meditation, you barely need to sleep at all. Very few people ever make it into that state. And there's no state or any condition which is more favorable than another. It's just you have to maximize where you're at and decide where you want to roll. Because there's no better than. Everything is God, everything is divine. It's all perfectly orchestrated. That's why I don't stress the world. It's the end of the world and it's the end of this and everybody's fighting about this and all this weird stuff, and it's just a waste of time and energy, and it bogs you down and you're not stoked. And that's why I like to get out to nature, and I like to just stay fit, and I like to just drink juice, clean ass food, blast hella enzymes. That's the main thing. If you want to just, I can't talk about the water cleansing process anymore. Now me, that's what I truly believe in. But the secondary proposition, which is for about 97 to 98% of the people that don't do the periodic water, hydration, detoxification, exclusivity of the Jesus in the Desert program, because they took it away. And they've been blasting me on Instagram, Facebook, and now just YouTube yesterday. We took down this video because it's an eating disorder and we don't want people harming themselves. So I didn't get a strike, thankfully, but I did get, I did get the video taken down of a 40-day thing that I did, which is the real thing, which is ultimately the one that will explain everything. But for the average Joe who can't get away and do I would say 10 days is like the absolute minimum. 21 days really gets you to like a therapeutic dose. And then 40 days, like, you get it. You're like, okay, I see now what's what. And then you got to work with all of your habits. So that's why I'm going to continue to press ahead with the Puradime full swing on every video. And then we'll get all the nuggets because they're my sponsor. Plus it keeps me on track. Plus Google and the AI algorithms allow for commercialism, but they don't allow for teaching you everything about how to keep your children from becoming brain damaged and developing a lot of issues and the things that are happening with all of those things that happen to people that really are the underlying factors of ill health and degeneration, which is brought upon by the matrix programs of the people that don't have a single clue at all. They've been brainwashed by a society where they're not going to be able to learn from someone who can transcend society and see the eternal law of life, the unchanging Now, all the changing aspects of society for those who wish to maintain control, those are ever changing. But the scientific law of the unchanging absolute law of life, that doesn't change. And when that is your premise, that is your foundation, you are as hard as a, cover your ears, kid, you are as hard as a fucking rock. And it always works out for you, every time. And you're like the most blessed person on planet Earth, because you know what is truly. And you don't get caught up in these games that everybody's playing. Now listen, everybody's got to have a niche. I get it. You know? And then you got to convince everyone that your niche is correct and that all these other idiots are wrong. So buy your program, buy your little yoni steaming program, your little every little diet program and all that stuff. You know? And I did all that too. You only need to understand one thing, the ultimate medicine. I talked about it this morning on a video on the Elite Video Club, the ultimate medicine. And you get to have peace. You don't have to argue with anyone. You don't have to waste your time with politics, diets. Now maybe principles, but not religiously conceptualizing any aspect of human life, because it's the ever-changing ebb and flow of the, human trajectory, and there's no one single right way to do it every single time, but there are these principles of hydration, oxygenation, full spectrum light, and avoiding the technologies that inhibit the biochemical stability of your brain on these social media tech devices, which then also not only does it obstruct the systems in the brain to maintain equilibrium as far as emotionally and psychologically, but also you're just filling your brain with a lot of just trash. See, I just talked for 20 minutes, but there's no words to describe the center point except maybe silence and maybe infinite stillness, to go back to the rock hard, unchanging absolute, and then from there anchoring in onto that, then allowing phenomenon to occur like the experiences that you can have that I'm saying with the enzymes lowering my own inflammation after a gnarly bike ride, 45 miles racing these guys. I'm out of shape. I mean, I ride my bike 2 or 3 times a week, but maybe like 10 miles on the bike track, and there's nobody to race with. So I don't have that ego trip. Now these guys were weekend warriors, but they were in shape and they train on this trail every day. So we were racing. I was just keeping up to their pace and I was being challenged. So I rode 45 miles and my legs were ripped. And then the next day, my daughter wanted to take me and the grandkids to the trampoline park, the bouncy park. So I'm in there bouncing way more than any of these kids, intense. And so, the trampolines are one thing, but then landing on the hard surfaces, which are basically padding, but it's still, the padding's that thick and then it's a solid surface underneath. So when you bounce and you land on those hard surfaces like 100 times, that'll create micro fractures in the bones, which actually keeps them strong. So use your bones or lose your bones. Get a trampoline and go hiking and move around, keep moving, but when you land, you create all these micro fractures where I had like inflammation in my legs for like, pretty hardcore, and I blasted a bunch of enzymes and then boom, woke up the next day and it was gone, because they were stiff, because after the bike riding and then bouncing in the bouncy park for like 90 minutes, hardcore, teaching all these little kids, playing with my grandkids, running all these races, and just jumping. It was pretty awesome. It's fun. I love those. I took a woman on a date there once, Those bouncy parks are amazing for your health. And most of the adults sit off by the side. There was one guy that was kind of middle-aged like me, a little bit chubbier. I mean, I'm still like a kid, you know. But he was like just very bouncing, but he was just smiling, having a good time. But I'm like, these bouncy parks, man, will keep your ass in shape. Because I was sweating and I was bouncing, and but I had a ton of micro fractures and stuff, just boom, 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 landing on my feet, landing on my legs, and falling several times actually. It's called a double bounce. It knocks you off your kilter. If someone else bounces on it, thank God I was the heaviest, but if someone else bounces on there when you do, it throws you off and you crunch, crack, and you're just boom, bam, bam, you know. So you need those enzymes, because when you're young, you'll bounce back real quick. But as you get older, all of the inhibitors, the enzyme inhibitors, the blood inhibitors with the cooked food, you know, and all the drugs and chemicals, and, you know, I mean, it's like, I know I already lived 10 lifetimes in this one lifetime, so I can't be one to talk, but now I need the enzymes in the raw food just to keep myself going, because I partied so hard, you know? And I don't know if I'm going to be able to reverse that, but I'm still working on it. I stay at home, I kind of get up here and do my little thing on YouTube, and like, hey, I'm a little robot. I'm a little slave matrix robot boy to pay bills, okay? So the people that were complaining, I've had to get over it. Like, this is just where God had me ended up. Besides, I went and did a 10-day wilderness fast, and you know, I went up there and said, what do you want me to do, God? I'm on day 10 of a water fast in the middle of the forest, you know, feeling fantastic, by the way. Oh, don't say those words. Sorry, Google, I love you. A 10-day wilderness retreat where I was drinking out of Boulder Creek exclusively. I was very high, and I said, God, what do you want me to do? And it was just like Puradime. And I'm just journaling all this stuff, writing like books and books, because I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't bring anything. All I had was a journal, and I filled that sucker up. So I wrote a book on top of this mountain. And on the last day, I said, you know, what do you want me to do? And it was just like, Puradime, bro. You just help the people with Puradime and raw foods. And I'm like, okay. And if people, because we eat way too much, and the food sucks. I will tell you right now, I've been driving around, and the food is poison. Now, there's varying degrees to that. There is some good food, I'm not going to lie. This year's melons have been fantastic. This orange juice is true nectar. Like, these are really ripe, mineral-rich California oranges grown in good soil, organic. If you get the inorganic orange juice, it's much more sour, which isn't that great for the teeth. Unripe fruit, it's better to eat a chocolate chip cookie than unripe fruit. I mean, they're probably equivalent. And now, people will argue with me, but nothing will rip you up, your teeth and your guts, like unripe fruit. Now, I had some truly ripe figs. I don't eat figs in Kuwait because that's stupid. I don't buy figs from the store because figs do not travel well. But I went to the tree, and these were nectar maple syrup bar brown sugar bombs dripping with nectar. Now that you can do, but if you try to get them at the store, they pick them early, and they're not ripe, and they're not good, and they're dried up, you know, balls of dryness. So I'm just gonna do what I do. I'm headed home. I'll be there in about a week. Probably make a couple more vlogs for the Elite Video Club. Spend a little more time with my mom. Head home, and I'm just gonna do what I've been doing. And I've seen a lot of complaints, but listen, I just hope everyone can understand. Puradime is my one and only sponsor. Therefore, it is my one and only job. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they shadow ban me if I try to even veer outside of that and try to tell you anything. Why are the kids have autism? Why is everyone so retarded? Why is everyone so sick? Because the food is poison and our lifestyle is poison and the water is poison. But you can't outsmart the Matrix. You can do it. You can do it. It might take a little investment, but honestly, the ultimate medicine is free. But if you're going to be going to family reunions, which I didn't eat, I drank 2 of these at my family reunion. I'm the only one that walked away unscathed. And the rest of the place was just weird. It was weird. I mean, I love my family, don't get me wrong, but people just eat. It's the greatest pastime, the greatest drug, the greatest social, equalizer. It calms everyone down and it gives them something to talk about, and it softens up the energy. I was fine. I can handle my energy because I meditate and do a lot of great things. I've busted my ass to be able to hold space for all types of different energies. So I didn't need to consume anything, and that's what I'm trying to share with people as much as possible. Stop consuming, and your body will free itself up, and so will your psychology, and so will your energy body. Just be. I know I try not to be, because people don't like spiritual truth, about what we really are, because that they want a bigger, better, fancier, more spiritually enlightened ego, but it's not that. It doesn't work. You'll never be happy. It'll never work. All the money, all the sex, all the food, all the pleasures, all the success, it don't mean shit. It just doesn't. I don't mean to be a negative dick to people's dreams and everything, but there's only the one thing. There's only the one thing that really is happiness, and everyone has different ways of putting it, and then they try to cram that down your throat, but it's, in essence, you're being pulled back into the real. These truckers need enzymes. Your grandma needs enzymes. If you're an athlete of any kind, you need enzymes. If you want to keep your skin nice, if you want to keep your hair from going gray, you need enzymes. If you want to build muscle, you need enzymes. If you want to break down all that fat sitting on your body, you need enzymes. Oh, that's how you stay raw on the road, baby. Just juice. I got the cooler right here. I can reach back. I made watermelon juice. I got a couple more of these, organic OJ, and I've got melons. So you just get a cooler and you just drive. Today is about a 7-hour drive. I got my double queen suite hillside, and it's the most amazing place. to go. I've hit all the other hot springs, but I couldn't hit that on the way here because they were full. And then now tonight I get my favorite room. I lived in this room for about 6 months, and the lady gave it to me for $99 a night. It's normally it was normally $159 or $169 depending on weekend or weekday rates. Now it's $200 a night, but it is worth it because this place is pristine, and it's the water, the Lithia water. And the Lithia water is absolutely amazing. Once you let that lithium soak in, it's a rare mineral. You know, it's in some of the Shilajis and stuff, but it keeps your ass calm, dude. And you burn it up with all the stress. So I go here and I soak, and it usually lasts a couple of weeks after you've soaked for several hours and soaked the lithium into your body. Anyways, the hot springs tour, I've thought about offering it to people, but it would cost like 10 grand, you know, to do the hot springs tour with me. And you can really see hand to hand how a brother lives, man. He lives large. I got 2 backpacks full of the best camping equipment. I've got the cooler. I got this box full of tools, and I got hatchets and saws and shovels and everything you could need to survive World War III, but just to go camping. So it's half camping and half motel rooms, you know, hotel rooms, whatever. And it's the hot springs tour, man. It's amazing. And it's a raw food hot springs detox cleansing tour, you know. But it's just, I love spending time by myself, so I just spent all that time with my family, which was amazing. I love my family for sure. Great kids. You know, I knew I had to make this video about the enzymes after what happened with the food poisoning. You know, I got food poisoning. I didn't have any enzymes with me. I don't travel without them anymore. I don't go anywhere without my Puradime stuff. Go to Thailand, you get all sick. Like, okay, I'm never doing it again. If I would have had enzymes when we got the food poisoning at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, I wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. So anyhow, that was pretty cool, and I was like, I'll just make a video, and then I gotta make, when I get home, I'm gonna make some videos for some of my family members that have all kinds of chronic conditions, which the Puradime will help with. You just blast the Puradime, you know? And then once you get yourself to monofruitarian status, and you can really learn how to live, how to eat to live, because we never do that in our society. The matrix is live to eat. And we eat probably 3 to 5 times more than we need. And of course we eat all the wrong stuff. And basically most of the food is poison. And even the fruits and vegetables suck. And that was the question that the dude asked. Isn't this food enough? I mean, maybe with your grandpa and grandma when the soil was rich and they picked everything locally. But now with our modern day food supply, even the fruits and vegetables just suck. The food just sucks. Okay? That's not even, that's a person to person. That's not a marketing talking point, you know? That is like, the food is depleted. It sucks. And for the most part, it's poisonous because of all the preservatives, additives, glyphosate, pesticides, and everything else. Unpicked unripe is poisonous. Unripe mangoes, unripe oranges, unripe everything, unripe figs. So you got to be savvy, and you got to find farmers markets, and you got to. I'm outside now. My family, they actually, they had a lot of raw food. They planted carrots. I was eating those. My daughter's grown the best cucumbers I've ever seen or had in my life. Prolific. My cucumbers did not do well because the bugs in Hawaii just ate every one of them. I didn't even get one cucumber. But she had a that's what I was living off of. That's what I had for dinner last night before I left. Cucumbers. And they have a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruit. Apple tree. So the first thing I did when I got there was I picked a bunch of apples and I picked a bunch of blackberries and I made blackberry, apple and blackberry juice and served everyone some juice over ice. Because the blackberries and the apples were warm, but that's real food. Real apples off of like a 150-year-old apple tree. I mean, this thing is like, it's just gigantic. And then, of course, blackberries, that's a wild, mineral-rich food, you know? And so, that's real food. But this crap we get at the store, the stuff that we eat at restaurants, it's just poison, man. And we are killing ourselves. It's a miracle we even are as functional as we are as a society. And I'm not really trying to be derogatory. I'm just saying, you know, my job, you know, my mission, I guess, is just to promote health. Just to try to convince people it's impossible, it's never going to happen, but just to eat real food. No one does it. Every once in a while, someone will eat something real. But if you eat real food every time, you'll feel pretty good. You'll feel that sort of that divine connection. And then you'll understand that happiness is found in the self and can be found in the self only, in the source of being, not the getting or the acquiring or the avoiding either, but in the presence of your own being. That's where the happiness already is. And creating a sensitivity to the receptivity of the presence of life itself within you. I'm not saying there aren't hard times, but when you're tapped into that presence, you're able to contextualize it in a way that makes it possible for you to, just take the difficulties and use them to your advantage for spiritual growth, because spiritual growth is really what I'm talking about, the essence of the self, which is just developing a relationship with love itself. So letting the love within you love itself, because synonymously God is love and God is truth and God is peace, and those are synonymous terms, and they all arise from that original oneness. But then we get all clouded up and clogged up and plugged up and distracted, and so we lose that inner independent awareness where you're tapped in to the infinite and you're living in the world, but you're not merging with it. You don't just because everyone's drinking, you don't drink, because you already know you're tapped in to the inner independent awareness of how crappy it is to drink and how crappy it is to do all these plant medicines. Everyone's a shaman these days. And yet, the real ones would never rely on anything external. And so, although, a little bit of this or that might be kind of fun or even helpful to catalyze, a little microdose of mushrooms might be, I can forgive, whatever. But to rely on those things, in fact, it's just better to just bypass it and go straight to the source. That's what came to Dan McDonald after so much time, was just, I don't want to rely on nothing except that which is already and ever present. Now, when it comes to, so that's in the context of the evolution of consciousness, Now, when it comes to maintaining and managing this organism, I do rely on the primary essence, and then secondarily would be the light, the sunlight, the full spectrum sunlight on the skin and in the eyes as much as possible, particularly the sunrise and the sunset, for those very beneficial orange and red hues that set up the melanin and the melatonin sort of activation of the storage of the melatonin begins as soon as you see sunrise, and those orange rays really enhance the production of that melatonin, which then stores in the tissues and in the brain, and then is released at night as an antioxidant and a regenerative biohormone chemical. So that's why the full spectrum lighting is so beneficial. And then the oxygen, obviously, fresh air, and not poisonous, recirculated, toxic air, which is, you got to do the best you can with that. But it's nice to breathe that fresh air at night when you're sleeping too. Figuring out a way to get a new comforter and have the window cracked or something so you're not breathing in your own waste at night. And that fresh air during the day, saturating the system with oxygen and getting it to those cells. And then third is the water, which is the solvent, which then allows for the conductivity of the light and the utilization and delivery of the oxygen in the system. So the pure water, and of course the living water, the H3O, is in the fruits and vegetables too. And so the fresh, truly ripened, seasonal, right now it's melons popping off. Epic melon season right now. Every kind of melon. The cantaloupes are popping. The honeydews are popping. The watermelons are popping. All these other weird ones that I've had that were just absolute nectar bombs. So I've been living off melons and orange juice and water and coconut water, and enzymes. Just, and in the ripe fruit contains the concentrated sunlight, the oxygen in the food and the hydrogen, and the living water, and the biophotonic light energy consciousness of life itself. So yes, you're murdering a poor cantaloupe, but the payoff in nature, so it's, everybody kills to eat, I mean, we're all like judging each other and stuff, but everybody kills to eat, all within nature, and you're killing a cantaloupe. But the payoff is, for the cantaloupe, is like, hey, at least spread my seeds. So theoretically we would eat the cantaloupe, and then we would take a crap, and then we would spread the seeds of the cantaloupe, and at least there would be that sort of that karmic rebuttal, if you will. Okay, you ate me and killed me, but at least you're going to plant my babies, and you get all that living water, you get all that living sunlight, especially the more, when I ate those cucumbers last night, pluck and eat within 5 minutes. That is how living organisms have done it forever. Now everything's on the shelf, everything's been shipped, everything is old, nothing is fresh. So that's why the apple and blackberries, when I made that for my family, they were like, this is amazing, and I fill everybody with the living foods, because I don't like to identify as anything. But if I was needed to, I would identify as a live food enthusiast. Like, I love to go out and find fresh, wild food And if I can't do that, secondarily, I like to go to farmers markets and co-ops and find the farm-grown, fresh, local, in-season food that has that life force energy in it. So that's what makes me a live food enthusiast. But I'm not going to chastise my family for all that they do. And I'm not going to take any more of this crap either, because I'm not even talking to the raw people. They've already got it together. They're perfect already. They have all the answers. I'm talking to the normal people that have all these diseases, that are overweight. And that's the reason why I do the Puradime. Not for all the perfect influencers and crap. In fact, I'm breaking away permanently. I don't care about any of these movements or any of that. I'm here just to help normal, regular people. I help them, they help me, the world goes on and on. I help Puradime, Puradime helps me. Everyone wins, nobody loses. Because if you can take something like this, if you don't have the discipline to fully get it together, which the levels go on and on until you're a pranic living, elevated off the ground 3 feet, you haven't eaten anything, and you just sit there like a monk. And you don't need to eat because you don't move, you don't think, you're just breathing in and absorbing the light, and you need nothing. You're a pranic living breatharian, you know? Because you've developed that skill. But for the normal average people, the Puradime stuff is the top tier, and it's going to help them. Herbs to keep the colon clean, because the dirtier the colon gets, the more confused people get, the thicker the mucus gets, the more difficult it becomes to absorb and utilize any kind of proper life force consciousness nutrition. That's what nutrition is the absorption of the consciousness of the byproducts of the microorganisms that are living and pooping inside your gut. And that's all the medicine. And that's why the Puradime is also incredibly beneficial, because it is everything from the cleanse to the herbal blood to the Purazyme to the Lifezyme to the Pura Life to the Life Biotic and all the cultured yogurts, all the way to the protein powder and all the way to the Lifezymes. Every single product from Puradime adds to the blessings and the benefit to your gut. And it creates an environment coupled with, particularly in my case, I love to promote the juicing, and secondarily the fruit, and then the herbs and the supplements like the shilajit or the bee pollen, which is more like a food, gingers and turmerics and things like that, And so it just depends on, there's like a million, there's, however many, 8 billion people, and they're all different. And so I'm here to work for the average person. That's what's going to work for my business. And that's what's going to work to keep me out of trouble with the big tech, which has already ruined my whole life. Not really, but I mean, they really they took me way, 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 way down. And that's okay. There was a reason for that, because things got quieter and I became a nobody. And then I'm like, this is actually better. And now I'm like, I want to be less of a nobody, but just some random dude on the internet, where Matilda from, Tennessee, she's 100 pounds overweight, sees one of my things on Facebook, and she goes, I'm going to try those enzymes. Dan McDonald, whoever the hell you are, doesn't know me from Adam. She gets the enzyme. She's like, actually, I feel so much better. My knees feel better. I can walk. I digest my food better. I make better food choices because automatically when you start using the Puradime and you start pumping that consciousness in there, then you automatically start making better food choices. And you start breaking down the enzyme inhibitors, you start breaking down the byproducts from all the grains and cereals, and you start breaking down all the byproducts from all the animal products, and you start breaking down some of the enzyme inhibitors that are in the processed food, and you can start transforming your body using Puradime, you know? And so it's just such a great thing for me and everyone else. And like I said, I hadn't read any comments in months or weeks, you know? And I went over there and there's like, all you do is sell Puradime. And it's like, and I thought, yeah, but you need to understand things from my perspective, how I have been bludgeoned to death. And yet the one thing that social media will allow me to do is to market products, because that is normal for them. But if you start talking about like things like taking a water only approach, which is, I could talk about that all day. I don't know anybody that's fasted. Had water therapy as much as I have, and it's an amazing thing. I haven't even gotten started. I haven't even started on this path. I was wrong about everything. My approach to life was wrong. I was thinking wrong because I didn't know any better until I've had this great evolution of consciousness and growth, and I see what it is more so it alleviates, because I'm not the one that made the matrix. I'm just the one that this body has to figure out how to fit into the matrix with the consciousness that is beyond the matrix. It's like the body is in the matrix, but not the mind is not of the matrix, and the consciousness is outside of the matrix because it is the absolute pristine awareness. It's just a witness to it all. There isn't even anything personal in the whole universe anyways. Everything is doing everything else. So what I'm saying is that it's the people that need Puradime that make me the vessel to make that available for the people that want that. And people don't like products, but the thing is they'll use enzymes to clean their laundry. They'll use enzymes to brush their teeth. They'll use enzymes to wash the dishes. So think of it. People will complain to me. At the same time, they'll use soap, which contains enzymes, to break down the food on their plate to get the gunk and the junk and the slime off of their dishes, but they won't take the enzymes to break up the gunk and the junk and the sludge and the slime that they just ate on the plate that they use enzymes to clean it with. So think about that. Their plates are more important than they are, than their colon, than the clarity of their mind, than the blood vessels, than the lymphatic vessels, than the fascia. Think of it. They'll use enzymes to clean the sludge off their plates, but they won't use enzymes to clean the sludge out of their body because they don't want to buy consumer products unless they've been conditioned to buy those consumer products. So maybe my job is to condition people to get the enzymes. This is the best deal. The Lifetime, $150, it'll last you a couple months. Anytime you go out drinking, anytime you do anything, eat cooked food, or anytime you want to detox between meals on an empty stomach, therapeutic, systemic, full range, broad spectrum enzymes for proteins, carbs, fats, fibrin. Can you dig it? I know that you can. My name is Dan the Man. I got a master plan. No, but I'm cool. I'm chilling. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm just here. God bless you. May God bless you. Out.